Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ivan TV. When we talk about academia, ni nini ukuja kwa mind yako as a young person out there? Wakati tunaongelea elimu, ni kitu gani ambacho kinakuja kwenye akili yako? Wakati tunaongelea masomo, ni kitu gani ambacho kinakuja kwa akili yako kama mzazi, mwanafunzi au mtu yote ambaye anatutazama? Kama wana Ivan TV, tumekuwa off late tukiongelea career talks. Watu wengi wamekuwa wakifanya career na mwisho wa siku unasikia anasema ile career ambayo alifanya haijakuwa ikifanya chochote katika maisha yake. Wengine wamekuwa wakisema kwamba mimi nilisomea kitu fulani lakini sasa unavyoniona ni hiki ndio ninachokifanya. Ni kiwango kipi ambacho mtu ufikia mpaka anaamua kuacha kitu ambacho alikisomea na kufanya kitu kingine? Na kuna wakati ambapo unafikiria kufanya hii career unaona hapana sitafanya hii, wacha nifanye hii. Wengine wetu unapata wengine tutaka kufanya law kama nilipoongelea hapo mwanzo, lakini unasema wacha nifanye mass communication. Na mwingine ama wacha nifanye medicine ama nifanye kitu fulani. Ni kiwango kipi ambacho unafikia mpaka unabadilisha kitu ambacho ulikifanya? Ama ni jambo lipi ambalo linakufanya mpaka unaamua kubadilisha kitu ambacho unakifanya? Na wengi wamekuwa wakipitia hali ngumu, unasikia mtu anakuambia I have masters, I have PhD, I have something like this and that, but sioni faida ya ile kitu. Wengine wanasema hata mimi nilichoma. Tumemwona mwanafunzi wa JKUAT ama ni MKU, between JKUAT or MKU siko sure sana, lakini kuna mwanafunzi mmoja aliamua hata kuchoma zile karatasi zake kisa na maana anasema haoni umuhimu. Je, ni serikali inatuangusha, ni system zetu, ama ni sisi wenyewe vitu ambavyo tunavifanya, ama ni sisi wenyewe tunafanya maamuzi ambayo si nzuri tunapoamua kuchagua career ambazo tunazifanya? Hii leo tutakuwa tunajadili masuala haya kwa kiundani zaidi. Ninaye nani? Mr. Kennedy. Mwanafunzi alikuwa mwanafunzi pale University of Nairobi, amefanya Bachelor of Science and Biology. Wengi wamekuwa wakiuliza mbona imeenda hivi au hivi? Wacha tupige naye gumzo hapa. Welcome sir, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
Karibu sana Ivan TV.
Nashukuru sana kwa kunipa fursa kuja huku.
Unajisikia vipi ukiwa hapa?
Nashukuru sana na naomba tukizungumza labda mmoja wawili katika uko nje ambao anatusikiza labda ataweza pata kufaidika kutokana na mazungumzo yetu au mdahalo tulionao wakati.
Yeah. So kwa mdahalo tunataka tukupatie uhuru wa kutumia lugha yote unapenda.
Naam.
Usisikie uzito. Najua mafans wengi wetu wanapenda Swahili, but you are free to use Swahili or English. Just feel comfortable.
Asante.
Usiwe na wakati mgumu sana.
Asante.
So tunataka turudi nyuma. Mr. Kennedy, watu wanataka kujua Mr. Kennedy ni nani before tufikie hata kwa hii career, manake leo career ndio tutakuwa tunaongelea kwa usana.
Naam. Sasa Kennedy, kwa majina naitwa Kennedy Francis Mosomi na natoka maeneo ya Kisii. Nilisoma katika shule fulani inaitwa Kanyimbo, shule ya msingi. Kutoka hapo tena nikarudia mara nyingine mwaka 2004 na 2005 nikaingia tena shule nyingine Toriangoko. Kutoka hapo nikamaliza nikaitwa Kanga High School ambayo iko Rongo District, Jaluoni. Sasa ni eneo la county ya Migori. Kutoka hapo nikapata B+ kaitwa chuo kikuu cha Nairobi. Behewa la Chiromo, alikuwa nafanya biolojia. Bachelor of Science in Biology.
Bachelor of Science in Biology. So, wanafunzi wengi, mtu kiwa mwanafunzi, acha tuanzie pale ukiwa mwanafunzi. A lot of people huwa wanapenda kuchagua wakipitiwa career pale. Unapata kuna mwingine ametamani kufanya ile career lakini hana uwezo. Na kuna wengine wanaifanya kwa sababu campus imempea ile opportunity. So wewe ilikuwa ulichagua ama ni campus ilikupa ile opportunity ya kufanya somo ambalo ulifanya pale?
Naam. Sasa swali kama hilo huleta kizungumkuti au changamoto kidogo kwa sababu mara ya kwanza hakika nikifanya mtihani wangu wa kidato cha 4 nilikuwa nataka niwe daktari. Naam. Lakini sasa kuangalia ile marks nilipata au zile points nilipata ilinifanya nilifanya kuitiwa. Niseme chuo kikuu cha Nairobi kilifanya kunitumia ujumbe wa kufanya biolojia. Na mimi nikasalimu amri nikasema waje nifanye hilo. Na kwa maoni yangu niliona kana kwamba kama ningefanya biolojia ingenipatia fursa ya labda kufanya udaktari hapo mbeleni kama ningepata pesa au mtaji wa kufanya hivyo.
So wakati ulifanya somo la biolojia pale kwenye campus, experience yako ilikuwaje? How was your experience there?
Well, life in campus was good. Was a bittersweet a bittersweet experience because of various aspects, because I hail from a humble background. So there were challenges, in fact, during high school because there was the issues between my family and all that. So I was going through a lot. But I thank God that I made it to campus. So when I was in campus again, it was a continuation of the same challenge that I had in high school. So, but despite that, I had to struggle because I knew if I never worked hard, I knew life was going to be hard too. You know, and at the same time, when I looked at my past, I never wanted history to repeat itself because only for the stupid people who allow that to happen. So I had to work hard. I remember when I was on campus, I once failed to raise the fee from second year, from third year and fourth year. So I had to approach the Dean of Students, Mrs. Nyawira at that time, back in 2014, right? Yeah, 2014. So I approached her, I asked her, you know what, madam, seemingly I may not really accomplish my degree here. So I would wish to request whether you can, you know, give me an idea on how I can raise fees for myself so that I can finish campus within the 4-year duration that I've been allocated for. So Ms. Nyawira told me, you know what can you do? She requested me to work in a Rizik. Then because of my situation, I never had enough, let me say, my wardrobe wasn't that good, so I could not manage to work in a Rizik, which is a hotel. So she asked me again, can you work in a morgue? Then I said, well, I can give it a shot. So she directed me to the School of Anatomy, to Professor Saidi, the late Professor Saidi. So I went there. When I went there, I found the receptionist there, but seemingly the receptionists were kind of limited in terms of allowing people to see the professor. So I had to accost Dr. Play that time. Then Dr. Play took me to where I found Professor Said. And Professor Said gave me, actually, Professor Said asked me, have you ever worked in such a setting? Then I said, no, I've never worked, but can you manage? And they said, well, yes. Then he told me, let me find you there. So I worked at Chiromo for 1 month. I raised some money, and then I went back to school just to raise fees for myself. So in other words, life in school was good, but it was more of challenges than joyriding.
Oh, nice.
Right.
So kuna kitu ambacho tumeona, umesema kwamba watu wengi, umesema kwamba uliweza kufanya kazi pale kwenye mochwari.
Naam.
Na kuna huyu msichana fulani anaitwa Mwangangi pale TikTok, yeye hufanya mambo ya mochari sana. Na unapata comment ambazo unazipata kwa watu sana ukuwa hazipendezi. Wakati uliambia familia yako, nimepata kazi hapa nitakuwa nafanya kwa mochari na nitakuwa na raise pesa za kufanya shughuli zangu za kila siku pale, waliipokeaje?
Niseme hivi, sidhani kama kuna muda nimeipatana na wenzangu, niseme familia, niwaelezee vile nilimaliza chuo kikuu. Kwa sababu hata wakati nilimaliza nikawaambia wengi wao hata hawakuwa na they were just unbothered and they never they seemed not to care. They never seemed to care. But for those people I told, they were like, oh, how did you manage? But I said, well, you know, the reason as to, in fact, what made it easier for me to work there is because while I was we had a certain teacher, certain lecturer called Dr. Tieno. This Dr. Tieno handled us in molecular biology and in immunology. So whenever he came to class, he said, you know what? When I was here in school, I used to work down there at CFP. So in fact, I was kind of curious. How can I also, you know, operate in the same situation? So I was kind of, I was anxious. So I found it easier because of the basis on which I wanted to work in that environment.
Wow.
But it was never easy because you know, working where, you know, many a time most of those people work, majority of them are under the influence of something. So, but for my case, I was working while I was sober all the time. So I remember every detail, every nitty-gritty about the whole process, and even the individuals I handled during that time. But it's kind of graphic, but at the same time, you know, you got to deal with it. You know, I like grappling with facts. Yeah.
What about wale relationship ambazo ulikuwa naye pale shule? Your fellow student, walikuwa wanakupokea vipi? Unapata labda mwingine anafanya kitu ambacho ni tofauti na biolojia, kae mwingine ako kwa field ya computer, mwingine ako kwa medicine, walikuwa wanakupokea aje?
Wakati huo, sijui katika muktadha gani, wakati nafanya kazi katika CFP au
Kwa ujumla yote. Unajua kwa sababu unatuambia wakati mwingine ulikuwa kwenye shule, wakati mwingine uko pale unafanya kazi.
Hakika. Unajua nini? Nakumbuka nikiwa nimeingia chuo kikuu mwaka wa kwanza. Mimi napenda utu sana. Sipendi kuona mwenzangu akiteseka na niwa nikiangalia. Nakumbuka nikiwa shule baada wakati niliingia mwaka wa kwanza, chumba chetu ni preverbs. Hizo vyumba ni za mbao. Sijui kama bado zipo au zimetolewa. Sababu nilisikia wanafunzi wakifanya kampeni wakasema hizo vyumba choma zina kunguni wengi na mambo mingi sana. Lakini wakati huo tulikuwa tunakaa hapo na nilikuwa katika Proverbs 10, Proverbs 5 from 10. Tulikuwa tunastahili kukaa watu wangapi? Watu watatu. Lakini tulimaliza kukaa watu 7 na tulikuwa tunalala kwa zamu. Mmoja analala, unapata kwa sababu kulikuwa na vitanda vingapi? Vitanda 4. Double decker. 2 huku na 2 huku. Sasa nakumbuka mara ya kwanza tulikuwa watu watatu. Kuna kijana mmoja aliyeingia kufanya course kama yangu ya biolojia. Lakini kwa muda kidogo akabadilisha nia. Akaenda alienda kufanya AJET Kabete. Kutoka hapo wakabadilishana na mwingine rafiki yangu anaitwa Peter Kamau, Peter Njuguna Kamau. Sijaimuona tulipotoka tangu tutoke chuo kikuu. Alipotoka huko akatujoin tukakuwa watu watatu. Sasa mimi Kennedy Francis Musomi na Peter Njuguna Kamau na Peter Odhiambo Minati. Yuna alikuwa ametoka sehemu za Ujaluoni. Sasa katika hiyo hali tulikuwa tunakaa kama ndugu. Lakini unajua tukiingia chuo kikuu amwezi kuwa na tabia hulka zinafanana. Hulka ni tofauti kwa kila mtu. Kwa mfano nakumbuka wengine walikuwa wachoyo na mimi nilikuwa napenda tule kama jamii. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa inabidi mmoja huyo mchoyo inabidi tu ni mimi nikipika changu tunakula sote. Yeye akipika chake anakula mwenyewe. Ika hivyo. Lakini angalau utu. Na nakwambia kwa muda huo ulipoenda kadri muda ulivyosonga ndivyo tabia yake ilibadilika. Mwisho tulikuwa tunakula kama ndugu.
Nice.
Katika hiyo hali.
Inaonekana ukiingia mahali Mr. Kennedy unaleta mabadiliko. Maana tukiangalia hapo kuna mabadiliko uliyaleta pale. Ulibadilisha tabia ya wengine ambao mlikuwa mmeketi nao pale. Naam,
inabidi unajua katika ulimwengu hamna mtu ambaye anajitosheleza kabisa. Kila mtu anamtegemea mwenzake. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha kwamba kwa wakati mmoja utamhitaji mwenzako. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha inafaa unajua ndugu si kufanana. Katika hiyo hali mimi huwa nafikiria hivi, ningekosa na labda yale mazingira nilikotoka nyumbani yalifanya kuadhiri tabia zangu. Yalinifanya kunionyesha ni uzuri upi kama si wale wazuri nilikuwa nawapata nisingefika mahali nimefika. Kwa hivyo lazima nirudishe mkono katika hali ya kusaidia jamii. Naam.
Let's go back to academia. Tunaona saizi hii system ya Kenya, tukiwa kwenye mazungumzo before tuanze interview tulikuwa tumezungumza nawe kidogo tukasema kwamba kidogo kuna venye hii the current curriculum inakuwa na mapungufu fulani. Unapata for example a lot of students wenye wamemaliza high school au wamemaliza campus wanakuja hapa nyumbani wanakosa opportunities. Wakiwa hapa nje wanateseka. Tukiangalia unaona ni serikali imekosa kufuatilia ama kutilia mkazo masomo ya watu ama nini inasababisha haya yote kutokea hivyo?
In fact, on that issue, the curriculum, it's a compound problem. It is a conglomerate of issues. It's a mixture of issues because the system is part of it. Because the system is the one that puts forward the kind of curriculum that students will do. I have not seen in Kenya homeschooling. You have to go to a school and then learn there. So these curriculums that we use, these are colonial systems because if you're going to study based on the US or the UK curriculum, it means what you're going to study there is fit or meant for that for that country or that colonizer or that the source where the curriculum has come from. Meaning we are doing the wrong things, the right things at the right time for the wrong for the wrong people. Because if we can do something that does not apply to our people, it means we cannot address the issues that affect us. So in my view, I feel there should be a reshuffle or a change in the kind of curriculum that we use, because if we had a system that addresses its own people. That's the system that is sustainable and tenable for those people. Because if anything, we are doing something that doesn't apply to us, is there need of doing it anyway? Because it's now going to encourage brain drain. It means it's going to encourage more people to move out of that country to the other country that has that system in place. And remember, the system invests a lot in us as students. And now you teach, you offer this education, you give them the loan and all this, but at the end of the day, they have no work to do. So they are jobless. If they are jobless, they can't pay back, the loans. And at the same time, when these people grow and, achieve their careers, they get out of the country and go to serve other people. Now, they leave their own people back home suffering. So is it really serving us? I don't think. Something has to be done about the education system.
So what you're trying to tell us is that we are still using that colonial mind.
Exactly. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, everybody's working to get out of the country and work for other people. And by the way, I once listened to Marcus Garvey philosophy. He says that a government who will always teach you to serve other people, that government can enslave you. Because it's not out there to help you. It's like a surrogate system working for the other, third party country. Right.
Kuna kitu ambacho nimekuwa nikiona, like for example this green card thing in America.
Right.
Unapata every year wanarecord a very high number ya vijana ambao wanataka kutoka nchi yao kwenda, kuna hiyo migration wanataka kwenda nchi nyingine. Wewe unaweza sema aje kuhusu hili jambo? Inaweza kuwa ni serikali inachangia ama ni our current economy ndio pia inachangia sisi kuamua? Hata mimi nimekuwa mmoja wale watu ambao wameweza kuapply ile green card, nataka kwenda nje. Maana yake unaona opportunities zinazikosa. Ni nini inachangia inakuwa to that level?
Nadhani changamoto nyingi inayochangia ni vile serikali yenyewe inafanya kazi. Unajua, ukiangalia katika maeneo tofauti katika serikali, imekuwa tu ni ukabila, kujuana, unaona, kulipa hongo au mlungura, usipolipa upati kazi. Imefika wakati ambapo hata mtu ukimwambia kwamba kuna kazi mahali fulani, hawezi peleka application because anajua at the end of the day haendi kupata hiyo kazi. Na jambo jingine ili sasa linachangia tena watu kuapply. Mimi nilianza kuapply kutoka 2013 hii 2024 na bado na apply exact 2017 na kuna wale nimeona wameenda lakini hata hivyo ukiliangalia hili jambo kwa undani ukilipigia darubini utapata kwamba hata hiyo hali ya kutoka Kenya kuelekea huko pia ina gharama. Kuna rafiki yangu najua unagharamika sana katika hiyo hali ya kutaka kuhamia kule. Lakini sasa unaangalia yale matokeo yenyewe ni tunu au ni tamasha. Kumaanisha kwamba inabidi ujitume zaidi, ugharamike wakati huu, utakuja labda
So, wacha turudi kwenye siasa kidogo, maana tumekuwa nayo hapa kwenye siasa mambo mingi. Sisi kama wanarika vijana, sisi ndio tunachangia. Ukiangalia the population ni kubwa sana hapa Kenya ni ya vijana. Na sisi ndio tutadetermine mahali uongozi unaweza enda. Tukitaka uongozi mzuri ni sisi kama vijana ndio tutadetermine. Uwezi ona ni kama sisi tunapiga tu, tunarusha jiwe tukisema ni serikali na ni sisi wenyewe tunachangia kuiweka ile serikali pale.
Unajua mimi sasa kwa maoni yangu mimi kama Kennedy, labda niseme mimi ni kijana lakini mimi kama Kennedy kwa maoni yangu katika hali ya uchaguzi katika nchi yetu umegubikwa na mambo mingi sana, mambo tumbizima. Hatuwezi elewa ni nini namfanya yule anaingia katika kiti kile, kwa sababu unampata mtu mwingine ameingia uongozini hakika hana tabia za uongozi hata kidogo. Kuna mwingine hata amejichagua tayari na anaingia tayari. Kumaanisha kwamba ukiangalia katika hii hali ya uchaguzi kuna mambo fiche yanayoendelea. Mimi wakati mwingi siamini kama kuna kiongozi mbaya anachaguliwa na wananchi, haswa nikiangalia sana kwa sababu kwa maoni yangu tu yani, kwa sababu najua hivi ukimjua fulani ni mbaya mbona umchague? Kwa sababu mimi naona hivi, unajua simba nauma bado utamkaribia? Huwezi mkaribia. Kwa hivyo ni nini kinatendeka kiasi kwamba huyu simba anaendelea kuongoza? Hiyo ndio swali langu najiuliza. Swali la mbalaga tu halihitaji jibu. Najiuliza sana kwa sababu hakika vijana wanaweza kuwa wanapiga kura ndio. Lakini hizi kura zao zinahesabiwa au zinafanywa nini? Ni nini haswa kinatendeka huko nyuma baada ya kupiga kura. Kwa sababu mimi naona kuna vijana wengi ndio. Na kuna jambo lingine pia. Unajua katika kila jamii kuna uozo katika jamii. Kama ukabila, mapendeleo, hiyo ipo. Lakini vijana pia wanafaa kufikiria sana wakiangalia maisha yao mbeleni. Kwa sababu tunachokifanya wakati huu kitaadhiri tutakachokipata hapo mbeleni. Kwa hivyo vijana tunachangia ndio, lakini mimi kama Ken, mimi nimejaribu na najaribu kutoa mwongozo katika jamii. Unajua ni kama fasihi. Fasihi haswa ukiangalia kazi za sanaa zinajaribu kuangazia matukio katika jamii. Kwa mfano wanasema hivi, wanasikia hivi wanasema kitu fulani kimetendeka, kitu fulani kimetendeka. Kitakawamberia katika Kifo Kisibani anasema hivi. Kila serikali ambayo inaingia uongozini kukitokea kashfa, kazi yake ni kutengeneza tume. Na ma commissioner wanalipwa pesa nyingi sana.
Nyingi solve ile problem.
Naam, wanalipwa pesa nyingi sana, lakini unapata hivyo katika hizo tume zote matokeo yake hayafanywi kazi, yanawekwa parking. Kumaanisha kwamba hakuna haja kuwe na tume kwa sababu pesa zinatumika kugaramia hizo tume, lakini mwishowe hakuna matokeo. Kuna haja gani ufanye jambo na unajua mwishowe wendi kupata faida yoyote? Hamna haja.
Haya, wacha turudi tena kidogo. Leo nitakupeleka siasa na kurudisha kwenye. Nitakuwa nakuzungusha hivi. Utanisamea kwa hilo. Sasa tukiangalia kwa wanafunzi. Hawa wanafunzi wakati ambapo wanachagua hizi career. Kuna uwezekano kwamba ni wenyewe wanakosea. For example, wakati ulifanya career ya biolojia na labda unakuja unapata hapa nje opportunity haipo. Unaweza ona ni si wenyewe tunajiingiza kwa huo mtego. For example, unapata wengine tumefanya mass communication. Lakini tukikuja hapa nje unapata kuna mtu atapewa opportunity. Swali hata nilikuwa nimemuuliza mwenzetu chat hapa. Wanapewa ile opportunity wenye hawajasomea kile kitu. Lakini wanapata. For example, sasa madaktari wameenda kwenye mgomo. Tumeambiwa interns wanataka wachukuliwe wapewe kazi. Huwezi ona kama sometimes pia sisi wenyewe tuwajikaanga na mafuta yetu wenyewe kwa zile career ambazo tunazichagua?
Hamna, mimi nasema hivi, maoni yangu ni haya. Labda kuna wachache katika hiyo hali wanakosea. Kuna wachache wanakosea. Unajua katika hali ya kuchagua au ile fani utachukua. Kuna mambo mengi uangalia. Mara nyingi unaangalia ile passion. Ile hamasa ya kufanya jambo fulani. Ukifanya kazi ambayo unakuwa na hamasa kuifanya, uchoki na unakuwa unafurahia kila wakati. Hiyo ni jambo moja. Na jambo la pili ni kuna wengine hufanya kwa sababu wazazi wamefanya. Wale wanakosea sasa, mzazi amemsukuma na msukumo fulani kutoka mahali fulani kufanya jambo fulani. Lakini sasa mimi nikiingilia hili letu, mtu kama mimi nimefanya Bachelor of Science Biology. Nafasi ipo. Shida ni iko katika system. The system is rotten to the core. They say education is the key, but I believe someone must have changed the padlock and you have the key, or the key does not work. Somebody must have changed this padlock, because we have this education, yes, but it does not apply. For example, I remember having tried to go to a certain, like in biology, you can work in Kenya Forest, Kefri, Iliri, Isipe, museum and all this. But remember, if you go to those places, you find old people with their family members or their relatives in those dockets. You find those people in office are incompetent. The people are competent are walking in the streets. And you look at these young boys, these talent wasted in the streets. I feel frustrated. I feel for them, That's why I encourage these boys and young girls who are in school. Please get more of these skills. Skills will serve you. You cannot retire with your skills.
True.
As long as you live, your skill will always serve you.
Have you ever reached to a point ukafeel una regret the career ulifanya?
Yeah. In fact, many times. Not even that. I've always thought, was I born in the wrong country? Because if you're born in this country, you want to serve it with the whole heart. Sometimes even the concept of patriotism has died away. People are not patriotic any longer, because those people claim to be patriotic, they are patriotic to your money and your resources, not you people. In fact, theirs is to make money for their cronies and their families, instead of dispensing their duties to the electorate. In fact, the electorates are used like voting machines. At the end of the day, they are pushed to a corner.
Now, so since umaliza your career at the year 2015, have you ever practiced it or?
Well, I think I've never practiced it. In fact, I've been, you know, moving from one, you know, they call it hustling, but I don't want to use that word hustling because it connotes a negative mentality given the system. You know, abused the word hustler, and then it has brought out something else. You know, so I want to use that word. You know, let me use a struggle. Life outside here is a struggle. So for you to survive, you have to do a lot of things to survive. Because if you stick to your line of career, you will suffer, and you'll keep complaining. You become a perennial complainant. So for you to survive or to maneuver outside here, you'd have to be an all-rounder. You have to try almost everything so that you can make a living. For example, I did biology, but I've been doing a lot of things. I remember when I was out of campus, I worked as a manager in a hotel in Isli, City Hotel in Isli, that's owned by certain Europeans staying in South Africa. I worked for 5 months, and then I just resigned. Why? Corruption and issues. So I never wanted to be part to what was happening there. I actually left. And then after that time, I remained for almost a year without work. In fact, I was at home, and I wonder how these people, you know, from where we come from, they are happy when you are jobless. Like when you are there just doing nothing.
They're
just
celebrating.
Yes, it's unfortunate how people can be sadistic or ill-minded. But I was at home for almost a year, and then it reached a point whereby, you know, I even recall a point whereby I could even ask my mom for 10 bob credit. I felt bad. Just studying up to campus and coming back home and then asking my mom, 10 bob. I said, no. That's the time I decided I'm not going back home. I will say never until I do what I can do to help my mother. My mother has been struggling she has been there for me when I was young, growing up,
level, secondary level.
and now I'm out of campus and still depend on her. No, that's a shame to me. So I came back to Nairobi. When I came back to Nairobi, I remember I had bought a machine, a scale. So I measured people across the street, and then word went home that Ken now is becoming a street urchin or a beggar in the street. In Nairobi, is begging man. All this. They cannot differentiate between an entrepreneur and a beggar, because I was an entrepreneur because I bought a machine, so they are going to pay for the service, 10 bob, and I could make money that I could pay rent for. So you know, when it comes to life, you have to think about yourself first, because it's you who will suffer if your door is closed. It's you will suffer if you don't eat. It's you will suffer if you do have nothing on your body and all that. So the essence is you have something on top of your head, in your mouth, and in your back. So I served as, okay, I weighed people across the street. Besides that, now there's a company I had gone for training in Kangare Muranga that normally offers Oriental kind of medicine called Catch Power. This is where I was taught how you can do therapy on an individual so that an individual can recover from some disease. So I worked there, but the moment I was going to be dispatched as a team leader to Bungoma, I just took a French leave. I just left unceremoniously. And I left because of what? There's a friend of mine who is in the United States. This man is called Alex Tai. This guy had asked me to come and serve him in his cyber cafe. There's a cyber cafe that he started, but it was not working well. So what happened? I just came and found another guy who was working there. So we were in conflict with this guy, because this guy was not serving the purpose he was supposed to serve, because any money that was sent, he could not account for. So I always accounted. I ensured that he had to account for every coin that we got, either from the business or from the one that was sent from the owner in the US. So I worked for this guy, but this guy now also came to a point where he was not providing the whole amount that's meant for rent. So that's the time now I started looking at myself. Ken, what can you do? You are good in English, right? Can you cash out of this? Then I said yes. Now let me give it a shot. So by the time I left campus, there were some guys who had already started doing academic writing. So these guys, I remember there's one called Gilbert Rono. He's a guy from Bomet, and he was my course mate on campus. So I called Rono. Rono was staying in Makongeni Thick at the time. So I called Rono. Could you please, in a position to Sambaza, send me some extra jobs, so that I can also work on them. Rono told me, you know what, Ken? I don't own an account. In fact, what I'm doing is that I'm working for someone who has got an account. So I'm not in a position to give you a job. Then they said, well, now, look, Rono, can you just write me down the names of those companies you work for? Like the companies that give, academic writing work. The guy told me, you know what, Ken? Well, I know you're good in English. Now, I'll do this one later. So Rono wrote all those like Writers Up, Livingstone Research, Uvocop, but of all the companies he gave me, I managed to open an account with writershub.org. This writershub.org was a good company because it was easy to open this account. So in fact, when I realized it's like I mastered everything that was required for that account opening. So in fact, I used Facebook to send people texts in groups that handled academic writing, so that whoever wanted that account, I could open for them. In fact, initially I was opening for free. Then I said I was opening them for only 3,000 shillings at that time. 3,000 shillings. You give me the details, I open the account before you give me the money. Because I never believe in the concept of taking someone's money, no. Because I'm able to work for myself. Yeah. So that's how I began to develop this attitude. So I had this account of mine. But the issue with this account is that you do 5 tasks for free. This is used for rating. So when they do that, when they realize now you up to the task, now they can give you access to work. Yeah. Now you bid. When you win the bid, you work on the job, you submit and all that. I worked from that point so I used to work. So much of the money I was paying as rent in that cyber cafe was coming from my own coffers. I was working and paying. And in fact, at that time, I was not even going to the house. I was living in that cyber cafe. There were like 3 chairs of this nature. I could just put the 3. My head rests on one, the middle part, and my legs on the other. So I had a certain coat. I never came with it. There's a coat I normally wore just to keep me warm. Because I realized I had to work hard to earn a living. Because I have my family from home, they depended on me, so I had to work extra hard. So at that time, when I realized I could pay rent, now I had to think about myself now. I asked now this guy, he's Alex Tai. Alex, could you please, since I see much of this money I pay in this business are coming from my own pocket, can you just send someone to pick these desktops? There were five desktops. And I was using also my laptop as the 6th machine. So I asked him, could you please send someone to come and pick this so that we close this business? I focus on other things because I was getting nothing from that business, from my writing. Everything was going to the business. So it was not a business. In fact, it was a losing kind of enterprise. So then he sent his wife. The wife came on and picked only one that was functional. And then the others were left there. So in fact, I was forced to go with them. But this fellow came to the cyber and was telling me, what, Ken? I can service these machines for you. And only to realize that this guy was a fraudster. The guy was picking microchips. In fact, he picked all the microchips except the one that I was using. And I was naive at the time. I was naive because I never knew this was a fraudster masqueraded as an expert. Yeah. But, okay, well, when I realized that guy did that, I felt bad. But at the end of the day, I said, well, these are but humans. Human nature is always deleterious. Yeah. It's ever evil. That's human nature. So I did understand. If I find someone who is good, that's an angel. In fact, angels are with us. Yeah, when people think of these angels, they are with us because if you find someone who's good, that's an angel. Yeah. So when I find someone who's bad, that's normal. It's but human. Yeah. It's just but human. So at that time, so the guy never came for the other machines. I removed them, took them to my brother's place. I normally I've stayed for quite a while in Njenga, Kurukwa Njenga. Yeah, I've been there too. That's where my brother stays to date. In fact, I stayed there from 2011. When I was on campus, I could walk on foot along Uraiwe, through Factory Street industrial area, along Enterprise Road, then reach then I'm here. Then I'm in the house. So I was used to that. Whenever I don't have money, I learned hard life when I was young. So I'm hardened off. That's what I can say. Because I can do without so many things and yet still fine.
Yeah. There is this thing imekuwa ikiongelewa sana. Young men nowadays they're becoming lazy. Yeah. Young men, compare our fathers
Right.
and our generation.
Right.
Unapata our fathers, they used to work hard.
Right.
Like hata opportunity, they were forcing opportunities.
Right.
Wakikosa wanajaribu hii, wanajaribu hii. Do you think our generation is failing? We as young men, are we failing?
Well, I think this is a generational issue because we don't have generational thinkers. A lot of people would think about tomorrow. In fact, the concept of sustainability, you know, we are told about SDGs, sustainable development goals and all this, but these are just beautiful words which have no action in them.
Yeah.
They're just empty words. You know, sustainability. When you talk about sustainability, it means you make 100 shillings, you spend around 30 bob, and you save the other for later use.
Yeah.
Or you sold something away for a rainy day. But you find the kind of people we have today, even the mentality we have is a matter of, you know, durations whereby you find what we, you know, when you look at someone's character, character is determined by the DNA and the environment. You know, where I grew up in, and the DNA from my ancestors or my parents determine my behaviors.
Yeah, true.
So if you find someone comes from a setting whereby he comes from a rich family, he cannot struggle.
Yeah.
You know, he has everything at his disposal. So what are they going to struggle for? So we find that, you know, people work hard to earn resources or earn wealth, and then they develop a generation that is lazy, that misuses that money. So this generation that is becoming lazy will be forced to work hard to produce for another generation.
Yeah.
So unless the parents take their role seriously, or the society takes their role serious, because I remember during those olden days, we found people that could correct anyone. Whenever you made a mistake, someone else could, whether he was your relative or not, he could just correct you there and then. But look at what you have nowadays.
Right now,
because for example, I always find it weird when you find a student or a young man or lady asks the parent, you know what, mom, I want to go and see my boyfriend. And the mom said, you know what, how much do you need? Have this. And this guy or lady would just go sleep there and come late. In our time, it was kind of draconian. You could not even have the guts or the audacity to even answer that question to your parent. You cannot, because the respect that was there, and these ampers of discipline are still reflected in our life to date.
But Mr. Kennedy,
Yeah.
tunaambiwa kwamba like things are changing.
Right.
Na lazima we accept the change, because wanasema if you don't accept the change, change will change you.
Okay.
Don't you think like hii inaweza kuwa it's something like iko hivyo na ni lazima tu ikue, like we can't change it?
You know something funny? There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. Even the preacher says, you know, Ecclesiastes, I don't know chapter what. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is just everything is cyclical. It's cyclical. It keeps repeating itself. Look at the fashion. Look at the 1960s. People kept afro. People wore long clothes, and you see this coming in. You know, people get. You know, it's like It's like life is like an adventure. Everyone's trying to explore themselves. When they find something that does not work, they always go back to factory settings. Yeah. So I believe in as much as we call it change, change is relative. Change is relative. What is change? You know, change for the positive, fine. Change for the negative, I mean, they should be discouraged. Such changes should be discouraged.
You know, wakati I was growing up, kuna kitu umesema, time I was growing up, kuna career zetu tulikuwa tunajua, like it's a sure bet. Let me use that word.
They were marketable in quotes.
They were marketable.
Yeah.
For example, medicine.
Right.
In fact, biology, the one you did, ilikuwa like ulikuwa ukienda kusema ukirudi home wambe like I'm doing law, I'm doing medicine. People will be like, we're already doors ishakuwa open.
Sure.
What happened? Nini happened mpaka imefika to a point like unapata somebody amekaa shule for 7 years doing law, and somebody amekaa for 5 years doing medicine. Unapata, in fact, mwingine amesoma for 15 years but still he's struggling out there. What happened?
I think, in my view, in as much as some people will say, you know what, don't blame the system, it all boils down from this, because it is the system that designs the education system to ensure that you become a slave or a servant the whole of your life. There is no system that can ever empower you, because every system is meant to make you become its servant. And if you find that as for example, look at our country. You find that you got the potential, but you cannot secure that job because you need to give money to buy that you would not buy that docket. And in fact, people have nothing left on them. People spend a lot of money to pay for fees and all this, and at the end of the day, you find that they are in fact on deficit. They have not paid. Look, someone asks you to apply for a job in the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
And then you are told now before you go for the interview, you need a lot of certificates.
Yeah.
Police clearance.
7 years.
You know, those around 5 years or 7 years experience.
Yeah.
You need a police clearance. You need higher education loans board clearance. You need career clearance. CRB clearance. Now you see, you cannot manage this. In fact, you just finished maybe campus, and that's why you find that this young generation, which does not know how to handle pressure and stress, they commit suicide. They become suicidal because they feel like, hey, it's the end of the world. They cannot manage any longer because they live in a system that is meant to oppress them and suppress them. When someone feels hopeless and despondent, the best you can expect is the worst.
Kuna this thing about depression, umeongelea pale.
Yeah.
Our generation wanna fail to control depression.
Yeah.
Depression, according to your view, how do you see this depression thing affecting our academia? Like unapata most of the time unapata depression imekula mtu mpaka to an extent like hata akiwa shule he doesn't concentrate or she doesn't concentrate.
Right.
Unapata akili yake more iko more other things.
Right.
Na ana ile help hakuna mtu mwenye anaweza msikia.
Right.
How do you
see that? In fact, I was one of those who were depressed. I remember, let me say this, but I hope people take it positively. Yeah. I remember when I was young, my mom and my dad differed, so we were left alone. So we were three. So in a family of 8, the youngest boy and the youngest girl and the eldest boy and the eldest girl followed my mom. My mom moved from home and stayed somewhere. So we remained 3. Among these 3, the eldest among the 3 was the favorite of the community. So he was seen as the proponent of my dad's views. But the youngest 2 among these 3 were seen as people who were against my dad. So you find that we were sidelined. I thank God because I was clever. I have been clever and I'm clever. If were it not for that, I think I would have not been here. I don't know where I would have been because maybe I would have been forgotten because there's a time I could reach a point where I could feel like, hey, the best thing to eliminate this stress is this. But now I had my brother, the one I follow. He told me, you know what, Ken? You are from far, man. If you do that today, where will we be? Where will you are the only one who is,
Yeah, you're like a breadwinner.
You are the breadwinner. You are the rising star. Yeah. If you do that, you'll mess the whole system. In fact, he's the one who encouraged me. And
your younger brother?
My elder, the one I follow.
Oh,
my
your elder brother.
Yeah. So even when I was in high school, he's the person who could go do mjengo and then bring me money on foot from Kisii Migori Road on foot. Yeye mwenyewe anafika njiani hata anakosa chakula, anakula miwa. Ujaluoni wanatengeneza miwa na wanachukua na hizo tractor. So tractor ikiangusha chini, wanapata nikienda anachukua moja akitumia ndio afike shule. Ananiletea pocket money. In high school was the worst I can ever remember because I had nothing. In fact, when you talk about the concept of shopping, I don't know the meaning of shopping. The only meaning I know is the dictionary. But in my life, that's never been there. Even to date. That's why I hate going to shopping, big malls and all this. I better send someone, whether you defraud me or not, I'll just send you. Just bring me what you can bring me. Even if you tell me this is 1,000 and it's not 1,000, it's fine with me. Because I had to develop a coping strategy for this stress. Because you find that, in fact, in this life, you have to develop stress management programs, SMPs, for your life because no one cares. In fact, no one cares. It's all about you. You are on your own. When you think in that line, you develop strategies on how you can handle your stress because stress comes in so many ways. You look at these people. If you find someone laughs very loudly, that person is stressed. In fact, if you find someone who helps a lot, is very happy often. Think twice or otherwise about this person. You find people are so cool. in front of the camera or in front of people, but behind the scenes, they're battling a lot.
Yeah,
They have a lot of struggle they're dealing with. So, in fact, because of that environment that was there, my brother, I think, is the only person who made me change my mindset. Because I've always thought in the past that the only solution from this world is go to the next world, the afterlife.
At least you ulikuwa na ile support here, your brother.
Yeah.
There's some people, they're fighting something out there, but they don't have anybody who is ready or willing to support them.
Right.
Mtu kao huyo unaweza muadvise aje?
In fact, let me say this. My brother was one of the support system, but another thing, I got this infection of motivating people. In fact, if you go to my social media handles, all of them, I believe in the positivity, you know. I don't entertain negativity. The thing is, you try to create a microclimate that sustains you. An environment whereby negativity is not allowed. For example, if you love listening to gospel music, listen to gospel music. If you love listening to podcasts that motivate you, listen to them. If you like being in, you know, I'm an introvert, so for my case, I love delving into books or getting in on the internet. I do my online journeys. I read. You get tired, or sometimes you can even sleep. Some of the best stress management strategies is you can have a chat with the best friend, in quotes, best friend. Another one, you can read a good book for those who are avid readers. You can also go to the internet and, you know, in fact, at the moment, we are literally, drowned in a mass of, in a notion of information. In fact, a mass of information. There's a lot that you can get there, as long as you know how to discriminate between what is relevant and what's not relevant. So you focus on the relevant. So you can listen to, there's some good people you can listen to. Miles Monroe.
That's my guy. That's my guy.
There's a lot. Or for your case, depending on your trajectory, you can get to the, I am a Pan-Africanist by ideology. There's some people I listen to, like Marcus Garvey, Bob Marley. In fact, just listen to what they say. Don't get what they tell you. Take your time and listen. Listen to what they say. Because people are naturally biased. So for you to get the right information, you take your time, listen to that. Another way of avoiding stress is to sleep. In fact, if you sleep and wake up, for my case, I sleep and wake up like a young kid. I wake up, everything is done, and I focus on them. In fact, the moment someone annoys me, if I don't take a long walk, that's another way. A long walk, by the time I come back, everything is gone. Or I sleep. When I sleep, I focus on what I was doing.
Wow. So, Mr. Kennedy,
yes.
Kuna kitu umeongelea about reading books. Na ikanipatia swali hapa. And our generation, most of them, they don't like reading books. They love staying at social media, doing the TikTok thing. Right. It's not bad, but unapata 90% of their time, they're just using it to doing this TikTok thing, social media, they're not learning. Like, mind zetu zimekuwa stuck. Like, we don't like learning, we don't like reading, we don't like investing in doing research. Like, most of the time, we just need this faster thing. Kila time, hatuna hiyo time. What is affecting our generation?
In fact, I think this sense of laxity that has just cropped up in our society is because we live in a disruptive economy. Disruptive in that because you live in a certain way, if you need to do something, you have to go online. It's like everything is becoming living. It's like living online. You know. And now, because people are not guided well when they are visiting this internet, they find there is a lot of distractions, main distractions on the internet. So they spend more time on these distractions before they focus on the right thing. You know. In fact, I remember when I was on campus, I never had a laptop. And in fact, if I had a laptop, I would have not finished campus. So it's good that I never had a laptop because I would have had more disruptions. For example, watching movies and all this. In my view, movies are not a good thing to me. Because look, movies, when that person on them, or maybe an actor is there, the actor does it to achieve his ulterior motive, to project a certain issue in a certain way. But that's a work of art, of course. I don't discourage them or anyone from doing it. But that's my view. I prefer most when I read a book. When I read a book, it's one way of. In fact, is it someone says the best way to interact with the past exponents or superior minds is through reading.
Yeah.
If I read Shakespeare, I read the mind of Shakespeare word for word. He's speaking to me through his work.
Yeah.
So through this work of art, I can still learn from the source firsthand in as much as it's a secondary material.
Yeah.
When I read the mind of that person, And where he pauses, I pause too. Where there's a full stop, I stop there.
Yeah.
So by so doing, in fact, I can learn from someone who was there so many years ago, look like someone like Hippocrates. I read about this. And again, now, when I've talked about Hippocrates, I remember about this thing about, the career thing. Look, if the police take the oath to protect the law.
Yeah.
So they pledge allegiance to the law.
Yeah.
The doctors are supposed to read the Hippocratic oath that claims or says that you first save the life of the individual and the other things follow. But look, what's happening? Things are in the inverse order. The inverse, the converse.
Right
in
now
the converse. People want money before. People want money. It's money. We live in a capitalistic society that always, prefers money before other things or to other things. So you find that a teacher is teaching because of money. A lawyer is doing it because of money. A preacher is doing something because of money.
Because of money, yeah.
This concept of money, the money, they say man made money. Money has made man mad. It's crazy because it is true.
In fact,
I see it.
Let me cut you short. In fact, our generation, they are doing anything just for money. In fact, somebody can walk naked.
Right.
Just for money. It may affect our generation completely.
In fact, where we live today, we have a long way to go because we need a paradigm shift in this. We need a paradigm shift. And it's not a singular individual can do that.
Yeah.
It's a generational thing, and it's something like a society or a whole body of knowledge is needed to educate this generation about what is relevant and what is essential for them. Because at the end of the day, it's all about you. For example, you will do something today to make money, but trust you me, your kid, the internet is the internet is very stubborn. And facts are stubborn, always. So it will reach a point in future, now here you are, there's no image and all this, and your kid will ask you, hey mommy, or hey daddy, are you this one? And what was this that you're doing?
In
fact, how can you even account for that? I was doing it to make money. So mommy, should I do the same? Of course not. Then why are you doing it? So you find yourself on the receiving end. You cannot account for what you are doing. So people need more directions and guidance.
Now, okay. Where do you think hii shida ilianzia? Is it at online at campus pale ama inaanzia at high school level? Is it at campus level ama high school level? Kwa sababu unapata mostly tukiwa pale campus, kuna hii party life. You want to show the world something that you are not, life that you are not living.
Exactly.
Unapata nitakuja niambia watu mostly content creators. Let me use our field. Content creators unapata most of the time we are living fake life. Nitakuja hapa niseme I'm living in Kilimani. Yet kwa ground maybe ninaishi placing that I can't even say it. What is happening?
I think for the first time, people need to be themselves and they need to grapple with facts. Mko hapo, mimi napatikana hapo.
Tutakuita, we have something tunaianza hapo TikTok. Tutakuwa tunajoin.
In fact, TikTok is a great revolutionary platform because it gives you room. You can do research in real time.
Yeah.
You can just take a break from someone asks a question, do the research, do the writing, and then explain, and then give even documents.
Yeah. Umeongelea story ya nani akiongelea religious Miles Monroe. Juzi there is this man of God from Nigeria anaitwa Joshua Salman.
Right.
Nilikuwa naona akiwa Harvard University. You know, I follow Harvard so much.
Right.
Alikuwa pale akiongelea about religious. Na it was a great educative platform. Like alifundisha vitu mingi sana pale. Na pia naweza shauri watu waende wakawatch pale because if you want to be a scholar, somebody who loves academia these are the platforms za kuona pale.
In fact,
you learn a lot.
In fact, in academics, you should not be limited to what you read through or listen. You listen to, in fact, they say intelligence is the ability to listen to something that you don't agree with, but you entertain it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ebu ambie tena. Intelligence?
Intelligence is the ability to listen to something that you disagree with, but you still entertain it. Anyway.
Wow. Watongo Power imekuwa nzito sana. Leo tumekuwa na Kennedy na I think we need to have a part 2 of this. Because kuna history pia ya online. Yeah. Wase wanasema unatengeneza aje do online and you are an online man.
Yeah.
Utatueleza kwa part 2.
Yeah,
watu waelewe. Nimekuwa kwa Ivan Bramwell, watoto wenye mmetutazama pale TikTok. Shout out kwa watu wote ambao wamekuwa pale kwa sababu naambiwa tumekuwa live TikTok. Na watu wetu wa Ivan TV, kumbuka kubonyeza pale kidude cha subscribe. Kumbuka tuko hapa maeneo ya Kirock Pictures sio Kimau. Ukitaka kupata picha nzuri zaidi, unaipata hapa Kirock Pictures. Mini wako Ivan Bramwell. Kwenye camera is the beautiful lady Diana Mudhoni. Ukipenda ambaye anakuanga host hapa hivi. Tupatane tena next time, yake nakwambia itakuwa kubwa zaidi sana. Thank you so much for coming Mr. Kennedy. Najua kuna mtu amelearn pale na tutazidi, tunakuhitaji tena. Hii mambo lazima tuingize kwa watu. Unajua hata tujongelea politics.
Sure.
No, unajua pia wewe na politics hiyo inakuwa mambo yako.
Ni maisha tu.
Haya. Thank you so much our viewers. See you next time.
Thank you so much.